This weekend I sent you out a video on the muscles of the legs. This is the support video which will help you with the video lesson and with the quiz that you take after it. This is just part one. I will give you part two on the second lesson of the week. These are the muscles of your butt, and they are called the gluteus maximus. These are the muscles in the front of your leg. They are called the quadriceps. You can see the muscles in the front of your leg right here that aren't colored in red. Those are your hip flexors. You learned about them last time. But the ones colored in red are your quadriceps. And there's a reason why they're called quadriceps. Quad means four. Just like a quad with four wheels that you ride in the desert, we've got four muscles in your quadriceps. As you will see, it's kind of hard to isolate the gluteus maximus and not work other muscles of the legs. Many of the gluteal movements also use the quadriceps and the hamstrings. We're not going to talk about the hamstrings till next time, but we are going to talk about the gluteus maximus and the quadriceps this time and how they're connected. When I say connected, I don't mean physically connected like the muscles are connected, but I mean the movements, how the movements that we make with our legs include the gluteus maximus and the quadriceps. The most effective movements we can make with our gluteus maximus and our quadriceps are with this angle, and it's a pushing movement. So whenever we are at this angle and we push, we're working the gluteus maximus and we're working the quadricep at various levels as we straighten up. This is the deepest starting angle for a pushing movement or a pressing movement with our legs. We don't want to go any deeper than this. You can see our gluteus maximus and our knees are at the same level. Our quadriceps are basically flat across, and we see good form as this person is at the bottom of a squat with the back being flat. The last image was of a squat. But the thing that you notice is that same Z-shaped angle. The only difference with this, with the leg press, is that we are pressing our feet away from our body. Last image, we were standing up from this Z-shaped angle, and when we stand up on our own, that's called a squat. But this now, even though it's the same angle, is called a leg press because we're pressing our legs away from us. So when you take a look at these images side by side, you see that same Z-shaped hip angle. This one again was the squat. This one again was a leg press, but we see the same angle at the bottom end. Again, muscles being worked are the gluteus maximus or gluteus maximus, quadricep, quadricep. They're the main muscles being worked. There's a little bit of hamstring being involved here, but not as much as the gluteus maximus or the quadricep from the leg press or the squat. Here's another way we can do a leg press, and you can see by the coloring here what muscles are working. So you see the quadriceps working here, and under here you kind of see the shadow of the gluteus maximus working as well. Here's a couple different ways, different looks at how you work the quadriceps and gluteus maximus with various machines and various looks. When we use these machines, you're getting more of a quadricep work than anything else. It's the main muscle being used. When you're doing the squat, you get a little bit more gluteus maximus involved. But anytime we're on these machines like this, it ends up being a little bit more quadricep than gluteus maximus. So now that I went over the angle and the similarity between the angles, let's come back to the squat a little bit more. I told you that the quadriceps and the gluteus maximus were the main muscles being worked with this angle, which is true. But remember, the difference between when you sit on a machine, there's a little bit more quadricep being worked. But when you actually do a deep squat like this, it ends up being a little bit more gluteus maximus. Okay, so that's really where you get your best gluteus maximus work out of this squat. Even though it's the same angle as when we're sitting down, a little bit more gluteus maximus, a little bit less quadricep, whereas in the last images where we were sitting down, it was a little bit more quadricep than gluteus maximus. But they are the same muscles being worked, just more emphasis on the gluteus maximus with a squat. Here's another look at a squat from the top end and at the bottom end. There are many different ways we can do a squat. This would be a dumbbell squat, and you can see the muscles being worked here again. Quadriceps, gluteus maximus. I want you to take a look at the depth. This is actually called a quarter squat. He's only going a quarter of the way down. If he was doing a half squat, his butt would be down here where the bubble is. In this image, you can see him going down deeper. Now he's doing a half squat. His butt is at the same level as his knees. Therefore, more gluteus maximus is involved. When you do a quarter squat like the last image, it's almost all quadriceps like you're doing a seated leg press. But once you come down this low and your butt is at the same level as your knees, that's when you get your gluteus maximus involved, on the bottom end of your squat. Squats don't need to be done with weight. They can be done at home like this. And usually when people throw their arms out like this, what they're doing is they are trying to stay balanced. When you throw your arm out, it'll help you stay balanced and keep you from falling backward. Here's another way to do a squat. Notice that there's the bar in front of the chest, unlike the other images when the bar was behind the neck. This is a way to do a front squat. It puts a little bit more focus on the quadriceps in the front. Another thing people do is they will put their heels up on a board or on some type of a platform. That also puts more of the focus on the quadriceps as opposed to the gluteus maximus. Also, if you're having a hard time balancing, this helps. And sometimes beginners do this when they don't have the flexibility in their hips or their ankles. Another trick for beginners, and don't even worry about the bar here. Yes, this is a front squat, but the point I want to show you here is the fact that they're sitting down onto a bench. So a lot of times if people are falling back or are beginners, they can do these squats onto a bench or onto a seat. Just put your heels right next to the edge of it so that when you sit down, you can not fall back. You sit down and then you stand up. That is a good way to do it. And obviously you can use weight, or if you don't want to use weight, you can just stand up and sit down onto a seat or a bench. Here's another way to work that same Z angle and work the quadriceps and the gluteus maximus. This is called a deadlift. The difference with the deadlift is you have the bar at the bottom. With a squat, we have the bar at the top. With the deadlift, we have a bar at the bottom. And both the deadlift and the squat are more complicated movements than when we just sit down and press our legs away. So we're getting a lot more gluteus maximus, quadricep, and you can get a lot of muscle building and strength from these movements with free weights, that is. Here's another look at the deadlift on the bottom end of it, and you can see how much the gluteus maximus is the focus. Notice how dark the red is compared to the other part. And also notice that once he stands up, he's actually popping his hips forward and then squeezing his butt cheeks together, his gluteus maximus together. That really helps the development of the gluteus maximus muscle. Here's a couple different other ways to do this type of a thing, either a deadlift or a dumbbell squat. But if you want focus on your butt, if you want to focus on the gluteus maximus, this deadlift or squat is really the way to focus on developing your butt. Here's a few other looks at it. Next video, we will take a look at the next pushing movements. And if you know anything about lifting, you see a lunge here. So we'll take a look at lunges next time. That's it for the first part of the video looking at legs. We'll continue looking at legs next time. Go ahead and turn your cameras on so I can let you go.